Welcome back to Ladies Who Create, a show where we'll be interviewing the incredibly inspiring women who are trailblazing the design and creative industries. I'm your co-host, Liz Meyer, a creative director and half of a Datalands duo.
And I'm your other co-host, Jess Rosenberg, and I'm a creative director currently working in the tech industry.
Today's episode features the dynamic duo Amy and Jen Hood, co-founders of Hoodzpah, a Southern California branding and design agency renowned for its bold and striking design and creative work. Amy and Jen have made significant waves in the design world, working with top-tier clients like Google, Disney, Target, and Industrial Light and Magic. Their work isn't just limited to iconic brands. They've also empowered countless startups and small businesses with their distinctive design expertise. The Hoods are also celebrated for their commitment to fostering a vibrant design community through workshops, speaking engagements, and their popular book, Freelance Business and Stuff. Today, we'll explore their creative journeys, the challenges they faced, and their insights for aspiring women designers. Let's jump right in and get to know Amy and Jen Hood.
Hi, Amy and Jen. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are beyond stoked to have you both on Ladies Who Create.
We're so happy to be here.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, we've been following along since the inception. Subscribers, avid listeners. So thank you for having us.
Love it. Awesome. We're so excited to have you here.
So you all are already so busy.
I'm such a fan forever.
Oh, thank you. We were too. I know. I was
So
like,
good.
I have questions for you all. This is going to be a dual interview.
I love it. Okay. Let's do it. Well, let's get into it. We've got some questions, excited to see where the conversation goes. But very curious, what inspired you both to start careers in design? And then how did you decide to launch Hoodzpah?
Yeah. Well, we're one of those people where we just started drawing like from the earliest age. Like I don't remember a time when I wasn't doodling or drawing or wanting to make comics or something like that. So we were always doodling. We tried to make our own like greeting cards. Like from a young age, we sent out our own like Christmas cards every year.
Yeah, like our aunt sent us one the other day. We forgot that every year we did like a yearly Christmas card
that we would draw.
And we thought we were really like real comedians. You know, it'd be like
it was like long form. It was like a Calvin and Hobbes spread, like fit onto a 5x7, and we had all these detailed like conversation and dialogue. It was just like so over the top,
really in depth.
But anyways, I think we always just were, and then we thought we wanted to be like Disney cartoon. And, you know, as a kid, you always just want to like draw like cartoons and stuff. And then I think it just naturally evolves to where, you know, you design like posters for your friends, like for the bands in high school, or you know, you design your own t-shirts for like the games at school. Like we were just very creative. And then when I took this aptitude test at community college to figure out like how I could translate that to money, they were like, graphic design is the answer.
Oh, wow.
And so I took a class and I told Aim, I was like, hey, I think this is it. I think this is the thing. And so at the very same time, she knew someone who used to come into the coffee store she worked at. And he was looking for graphic design help. And he knew that she did good chalkboard art on the like coffee menu. And he was like, I know you have skills and I think I can train you. And
It is amazing how like those weird moments in life are like pivotal moments. Like I really don't think I would have been a graphic designer if my regular customer, Jason Staggs, shout out to Jason Staggs in San Clemente, had not said like, hey, we need some like, you know, interns. Like, do you want to like come? I'll teach you all the programs. You're a hard worker because you always get me my coffee before I even get up to the counter. And, you know, you're clearly artistic. What do you think? Like, those are crazy moments. Like, do you guys ever like look back in your life and you're just like, this was a pivotal moment that I could have easily said no. And I said yes. And thank goodness.
Oh, all the time. I think about that constantly. It's like, it has to do with like right place, right time. The universe like has plans for you. What does it all mean? Like, there's definitely moments.
And Jess, it's one of those things where it's like the path, the thing you said yes to, you honestly probably should have said no to. Like, it didn't make sense for what you thought the dream was.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting because you hear about like, I don't know, we have a course, you know, Freelance and Business and Stuff. It's like the course side of the book that we wrote. And I feel like a lot of people have like really clear paths for like what the vision is, what the dream is. And it's like, I feel like I'm always saying like, but don't forget the weird offshoots and like the weird like side quests.
Yeah.
Because those are the things that like really open up the thing that you're like, oh wait, this is the thing that actually I really enjoy. Graphic design.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought I wanted to be like a really fancy New York, LA artist, you know?
Oh yeah, you were taking painting classes.
Yeah.
Like you were taking art classes at community college a lot, and then I was doing the design ones. Yeah. And then when we got that internship, he was like, I'll just teach you on the job. So we just stopped going to community college and just learned on the job. And
Wow.
it just worked out. But yeah, you wanted to be a painter, but then we were like, but what do we paint? Like I like to do art too, but I hated that there was never a brief.
Yeah, I'm like, can someone give me a subject? Like, I need like a Pictionary. I need you to give me like person, place, object. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here.
Should there be a statement in this?
Yeah.
Or like what?
No, I was just gonna say that I always had that problem in art school because I went to art school also, and like I wasn't sure design, illustration, video art. I don't know. I was just like taking every class, and the briefs
That
are
shows,
the
though,
thing that got me.
The briefs were
Yes.
oh, you were like, thank goodness.
Yes.
And then
It's
it's
such a
like your
relief.
senior thesis. You're like, uh-oh.
Oh my
gosh, whatever
gosh,
that big project is, where you're supposed to really
I had
come
a
up with some
thesis.
statement. It's like, yeah, but
It
I'm
was
22.
so-
I don't know. I don't know.
I didn't know.
anything.
It was too
Right.
too much
But I think
for
it
me.
shows through on Datalands' work that you have a lot of
Yes.
creative interest in a lot of different things that you've tried out, because you all can do, I mean, you are very multidisciplinary. You know what I mean?
I'm
Like,
a generalist. We are generalists. Like it's our thing, and then we try to niche down. Okay, this is like so far off topic, but we try to niche down in the data viz world, and it's
I was gonna say, because I consider you
In
as
an
a niche,
adventure.
even though I know you can do everything. But to me, I'm like, they're the data people. They're the data people. That's
that's nice. That's good. That's good to
Yeah.
know. That's
I
good.
always
It worked.
It worked.
That means it's
I heard
working.
you talking. Yeah, I heard you talking about it on the podcast, and I'm like, that's something that's really interesting. Like I was texting with my friends Josh Ariza and Alex Drinker. We have like this text thread where we all just talk shop, and we're kind of like digital coworkers because we're all freelancers. And he texted and he goes, Amy, Nikki Glazer is your exact voice and like cadence if you told more jokes. And I was like, what? I was like really offended. I was like, there's nothing worse than being perceived because we don't have the same perception of ourselves as what other people have. But you were saying on the podcast, you were like, oh, we're too generalists. And I've always seen you and Datalands as like very niche and like very good at showing your niche.
I don't know. Stan? I don't know. Fell into it, I guess. I don't know.
I think that's
Really.
it's part of like, even though everything seems so planned with a lot of businesses that you look up to, I think the more that I get older and I kind of like meet my heroes and meet people that I really respect is like, we're all just kind of like going with our gut. And it's like, and then we're calling it marketing after the fact because it worked. Do you know what I mean?
Like
Yeah.
it doesn't work. You're like,
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's like, you know, like Liz, we're in that group that Grace and McAlpine started, that Slack channel of ladies, which is so great. And sometimes we'll do like calls and it's so helpful. And everyone's talking marketing. And I'm like, I think we're all just, it's just like, you know, people. And like, it's just like, do any of us really know? Like, I don't know. I feel like we call it marketing after the fact, but I don't know if there's always like such a clear plan. It's like, you're just kind of throwing things at the wall and seeing like what's actually like kind of making an impact.
That's true. Yeah, I think it speaks to that like side quest thing because none of the things that have happened to me for me have happened like, you know, in a planned way. It's just they've happened and I've either said yes to the thing that came across my desk or my email or whatever, or I just happened to meet someone like a month before an opportunity pops up. It's very much happenstance. I don't know.
But I think it also speaks to availability and consistency
I was gonna
because
say that,
you
yeah.
have to be, you were out there
And you were prepared to
and
say
you,
yes.
right. You were out there and you had been doing things
You
consistently.
had the skill set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think we also have always, we've never really, we're very impatient, I
Yeah.
find.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of served us in one way in that we don't want to wait till we know exactly what we should do. We kind of get too eager and we're like, let's just do it. You know, like, let's just put
Let's
it
just
out.
try this. Like,
Let's
this
just try it out
you know,
and
it's
see
like,
if it happens.
I think everyone kind of has like the innate instincts of like, these 3 things could work. Like, this is what a lot of people do. Like, let's put our spin on this. And then you're like, then we'll kind of figure out what's giving a good return or like, you know, what people are resonating with. But yeah.
But I mean, it's better than just sitting and waiting
Yeah.
and kind of thinking, oh, no, that won't work. Well, we couldn't. It's like, it's way better to just kind of get out there and just kind of like start putting feelers out. Because I think that's how we've gotten a lot of great connections over the years and good work through our studio and stuff. Is honestly just being around people is like huge. Going to conferences, meeting people, meeting local people, you know, hanging out with friends and telling them what you're working on, even if they're not in creative circles. Like we've gotten a ton of great work from friends who just know that we do this. So it's just like the value of just literally saying out loud what you do without like being ashamed or like embarrassed, you know, but being excited about it. I think people pick up on that and they're like, oh yeah,
Sure.
they do that, you know? I mean, it's just kind of as simple as that for a small business, at least. I feel like it is. I mean, for bigger brands, obviously, there's a lot more that goes
Right.
into it.
Yes.
Especially for design and creative types, it's probably like the most true. Like a year ago, I started taking these improv classes in Austin, and I was between full-time jobs and freelancing. And after class, we would all go to the local bar and just like hang out, like everyone that was part of the improv group. And after that first class, someone was like, "Oh, Jess, like, what do you do for work?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm a graphic designer. You know, here's the type of work that I do." They're like, "Oh my God, I have a startup and we really need a website." I was
There it is.
Okay. Like, that's
incredible.
I was just going to say, I think people who are like creatives and in service of others in that way, there's like such a high demand, you know, across the board for what we do. That whenever you say it out loud, there's a high likelihood that someone needs what you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like that's the hardest thing to find. It's not like you can go on Yelp necessarily. I don't feel like a lot of design, you know what I mean? It's like for a plumber, for an electrician, it's like you can go on Yelp, you can kind of get a feel for it. Also, is it just me or is it the internet just bullshit now? Like you can search for something and you will just not find what you need. It doesn't matter how hard you try. Like they are pumping and pushing the stuff that is not the right answer for you. And
it's like the SEO nonsense.
You know?
It's
SEO nonsense. It's like, you know, the first 3 pages are not what you want, but it's actually, like, how do you get to the things you do want?
There's something in my head where I'm like, I don't want page 1. These people paid for this. I want page 2. I want the real deal. Page 2. Oh, no. Yeah.
Well, my dream is always not my dream anymore. My dream for a long time was to get lizmeyer.com because that was ranking first. And then I eventually got it. And it's not a lovely story why, but the lady died. And then I got it. Sorry.
Circle of life.
Anyway,
circle of life.
Circle of internet. And it was like
a nirvana of sorts or a reincarnation of sorts. Okay.
But you know, I got it and I was like, okay, I've fulfilled my dream. What's next? And then
now what do we do with it?
What other URLs can I find now?
Now it doesn't matter. Now now the first page is just SEO content.
Right. Yeah.
Stuff, so
yeah.
That's okay.
Wait, so Jess, you took improv. Okay.
Yeah.
How much scarier? That has to take a lot of the scariness of like in-person presentations and meetings and things like that out of the equation. Because I feel like so much of confidence in meetings and just confidence in presenting your work, even if you're just doing it over Loom, is just like, you know, kind of being able to riff and kind of being able to just like speak off the cuff. And be maybe even a little funny and just personable. It's just like, it just takes so much of the like over importance maybe out of it and just like, this looks good. This is like a good start. Like it doesn't have to be so serious.
Yeah, it was really illuminating. So I did it for a year. Actually just wrapped up the like highest level class, which, you know, I'm like surprised I stuck
didn't
with
know
it
that.
so long.
So you're like a black belt of
amazing.
improv?
I don't know about that. But interestingly, you know, I went into it because I'm like, I want to learn how to be funny. This will be great. But the biggest learning and takeaway was not that. It was actually learning to get out of my head, learning to not care so much. Like if I said something that I thought was dumb, like just let it go. There were so many life lessons that were baked into all of the coursework that were just so surprising and illuminating to me. And those were the biggest takeaways. Maybe I was funny, maybe I wasn't, but it really taught me to just get out of my head and not care so much about what other people think and to just go with the flow. So for that, I'm like really grateful I did it and stuck with it. Highly recommend.
Do you remember the biggest laugh you got?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so
I guess it's different because it's not like stand up, but yeah.
But still, I mean,
I'm probably gonna get myself into like a situation here, but I will admit that I did learn about myself and I'm really good at voices. And every time I did a voice, people would just like die of laughter.
Oh, that's amazing. Wait, so like what's your voice? So you're like a Kristen Wiig or like a Maya Rudolph.
I could do like a strong New York accent.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
For some reason,
everything is better that way.
My default mode was like this little old lady who was like from New York and she had like a bad back and she'd walk around with
that's amazing.
And so like little like characters like that, you know, when I would step into those characters, I just got lots of laughs and I was like, oh, this is weird. Okay, cool. Like, I guess that's funny.
Yeah.
Jess, that is my thing too.
Can we
switch this whole voices? I love it.
What's the John Mulaney, Nick Kroll thing where it's like two old guys who hate everything? You know that thing? You guys need to do that.
So much tuna.
Oh my
So
God, we
much
should
tuna.
do that. Love it. Compelling.
Oh, hello. I went
Yeah, Oh,
to the
Hello.
Broadway showing of Oh Hello because I just
Amazing.
couldn't handle, because Jess and I are also both from Long Island, so it's
We're
kind
very
of
similar.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you guys ever see Colin Joe surfing? They always he's always
Not
out
right.
surfing
I thought he
Long
was from
Island.
Staten
Island.
Oh,
He's from Staten
I don't
Island.
live there
Yeah.
now.
Oh, you made a
Oh,
misstep.
dear.
Made a misstep with the New Yorkers.
Long
Yeah,
Island,
Staten
Staten Island.
Island-
What kind of beef? Is it a big beef?
No, we don't really think about Staten Island.
Yeah,
very
they're
often.
kind of bad about them for sure. Whenever someone brings up Staten Island, I'm like, oh yeah, that place exists.
Oh,
Yeah.
them. Oh, that's so
Right.
funny. Somebody was saying that about New York and LA, how New Yorkers are so obsessed with hating LA. And the worst part is that LA is like, oh, we love New York. Like, we don't even like
They just
like,
don't
we
even
just
think
don't
about
even
it.
think about
Yeah.
it. It's like so gorgeous and sunny, and like we're just, we've got our organic juice, and like
Yeah.
things are great.
Everyone loves LA. I think.
New York?
I think
Oh,
it's like,
really?
I don't know. In my yeah, it's like that's a dream. You like New York is so different than LA that it's just such
Yeah.
a dream. It's like a dreamland. It's not real.
Yeah,
It's
it
just
is.
fantasy.
It really
It
is.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
Until you land.
Yeah.
Until you land and you walk around and you're like,
I don't
"Whoa,
know.
this is a shithole."
Every time I've been
Yeah.
to LA, I'm like, I need to live here. This is so
It
beautiful.
is
Like,
true. It's like it's vacation land.
It is
Every time I
vacation
go
land.
outside, I'm like, I can't believe I live here.
Yeah.
This is crazy. It's
Yeah.
summer all the time. Like
just the
Yeah, it's
flowers
just-
alone. You're walking
Around
down
LA,
the
I'll
street,
say.
just
yeah,
flowers.
bougainvillea,
Mhm.
palm tree. Like it
Mhm.
really is just like, how can you be mad?
My favorite thing when we visit any city, like we'll find a really nice neighborhood and just walk around and, you pick out which house you would have, things like this.
Yeah.
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 But in LA, it's so fun to do because you go to Beverly Hills or like right
Yeah.
next door to like Rodeo Drive. There's like
Yeah.
beautiful neighborhoods and you just walk around and like critique the landscape. Like you have any role there. But
Yeah.
it's just really fun. But the improv thing is interesting because I think like I'm reading or listening to Stephen King's book on writing, and it's all about his process and things. And it's actually been really helpful just from a creative perspective, and even as not a non-writer, because I love people like him who kind of de-glamorize process, and just kind of, I think with the humor thing, like you were saying, any way you can kind of like make it less precious or
Yeah.
or like so official, like when you're talking to clients, and make it more of like a comfortable conversation.
And just
like
remind them
a
that this
normal
isn't the final
process.
answer. This is a
Exactly.
process.
Yeah.
We have time. There's no pressure. We'll get there.
Yes. And this
Yeah.
isn't just like, oh, this big proposal and it's this big moment and you should love it. Otherwise, this has all been in vain. It's like, no, like,
Yeah.
it's just making it more casual, making it more fluid, I think is always good with a client.
For sure. Yeah. That tracks.
Do you
Yeah,
all
I
have
feel
any
like-
like tricks that you use when you present work as far as like mindset prep with the client, or like things you say to like calm nerves, or do you have any like things that you do before you show the creative that really help?
No.
Thinking.
I just, I feel like what I do. Okay, you know what I did do when I went full time with Datalands, because I was in a job. I was a director of brand. It was like a whole big thing, and then I left to go back to Datalands full time. And when I did that, I made the decision to take courses and learn more about the business side of creativity. And I took your course actually, and as you know, because I'm in the Slack, and the way you guys presented yourselves and talked about the work, and it was just so, I don't know, just it felt very self-assured, very comfortable. Nothing felt forced. I was like, oh, it's possible to just talk about the work and just be clear and concise and not confuse everyone with like poetic, lovely, flowery language that I do all the time. So yeah, that was like something I learned a lot.
That's such a good point, because the Stephen King book, he says exactly that. If you want to be a good writer, stop trying to write in a voice that's not yours. Just write clearly. Like, don't look up vocabulary. Just use the vocabulary
Yeah.
you would use. Like,
He's like, what was the word you were going to use?
Just
use
use that one. Yeah.
You speak like my
Right.
brain is all over the place all the time. So I'm adding words where they shouldn't be there, because I'm doing a run-on sentence right now.
I'm the same way.
I needed to learn to be concise and speak so that people wouldn't be confused. So I kind of had to learn to speak like someone else, but that was okay. And I had to do that, to go through that process.
That's interesting though. Yeah. It's like I think that's smart though. It's like you have to know your strengths and your weaknesses. It's like, I'm the same way where I'm like, we're rewriting our book right now, just, updating it, making sure everything's like up to date because it is, about business and things like that. So as we learn things, we're like, wow, we could add that in. And I'm rereading through it all, and I'm like, we already said that. I've said it 3 times now. Like, it's just like hacking, slashing, marking out. I'm like,
how did you get it? Like, just beating them with a phone book, just like, get it in.
I know. And it's like, it's fine to repeat things, but it's like, I just realized that I'm just like such an over-iterator.
Yeah.
And it's like, people have such a they don't have a lot of time. You know, it's like they're trying to run their business. So it's like, I'm just like editing with just like mercilessly. Yeah. Everything is struck through. But that's something I'm working on too, is just like, keeping it to the point, not getting so nervous that I just keep rambling on. It's like present it clearly and then let the silence sit there.
Yes.
Be the cool, mysterious, chill, like be the
You know
rock.
what helps is like during the pandemic and just in general, we started using Loom a lot more, especially for like, you've already presented key creative. It's more just updates and things like that. We would send a Loom to walk through the changes and things like that. When I would re-listen to make sure I covered everything, I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is how I talk. Like, this is so embarrassing. First of all, it's all over the place. Second of all, I'm talking a mile a minute, And half the time I'm like, I'll get in this like guttural, like vocal fry where I'm like, I don't know what it is. But I'm like, okay, so lift yourself. Okay. Speak clearly. So I'll re-record these things like 4 times. And you know how Loom is like, we've saved you 20 hours and 50 meetings. I'm like, no, you haven't, because I have re-recorded like 10 times each time. You don't even know.
Wait, you don't edit? You don't edit like the whole thing and splice it together to just
I just found that. And you can pause now, which is genius. You can pause if you're like losing your track. It's like, okay, what am I trying to do here?
It's like a whole like TV production. No, I just like to take it from the top because it's good practice for me to just say something and then move on, which is so hard for me.
Good idea.
No, it's good practice. It is good practice.
With tools like Loom, I've tried to not necessarily like script out everything I'm going to say, but I'll bullet outline to make sure that I'm covering all the points. And that's really helped me not have to go back and edit and redo it.
Like, that's great.
That's handy.
Yeah.
And then just like recording myself and practicing over and over and over again.
It's valuable. It's so valuable.
It's like you don't want to look at yourself or listen to yourself. It's the most uncomfortable thing.
Really?
But it is really helpful. Yeah. It's, especially if you're like wanting your client to just feel like you want them to be stoked. Like you're stoked about the creative. You want them to feel really confident in what, how you're moving forward. And so it's like, it's worth those kind of like working on those kind of things.
For sure. Yeah. I noticed that one thing I've learned from Jess is how to be more clear and do the bullet points. I feel like every time we have had a conversation, you come back with like notes and they're all very clear and concise. And like, how do you do this? How are you so good at all of this stuff? All this, like, just like organizing. It's amazing. I think working in-house for a very, very long time, having to like recap and recommunicate and reiterate things to internal stakeholders has got me just like doing.
Right. Yeah.
I've learned so much from this.
To what you were saying about the power of clarity, and which Liz has, and bless her, and Jess has, and we all want it.
I do not.
It's interesting because I think when you're younger and you look at like the Pentagrams of the world or the Jones Noel Richies, you're just thinking the creative directors and the salespeople in those rooms have some special tactic of speaking that we need to learn, right? And it's like they know how to sell, they know how to pitch, like Mad Men. Like there's like a sales element to this that I just don't have naturally. It's like, no, like there's just power in being clear and confident and friendly. Like that honestly can take you so far. And I don't think there's many secrets in the world. There are some people who are very gifted and just and I think gregarious, and they can just really get people excited. I think that's the thing. But I don't think there's many secrets to pitching, really,
and
like work.
I was shocked. Like I got a ticket to Brand New's first round conference, which I hadn't been to before, and I love everything Brand New does. I think they do such a great job with their stuff. But I was so like, it was so comforting to just be like, everyone's doing the same thing. There's like really no trick to it. Like we're all doing the same thing. I did notice like some funny trends. Like I feel like it used to be you would just kind of like back like maybe I don't know like 10 years ago you would just send like a PDF with like just the logo, black and white. It was like very bare bones. And nowadays it's become the most insane production of like fully fledged out brand motion. Like the proof decks are getting unhinged.
From round one.
Yes.
Yeah.
From round one. And I'm like, I bet you anything in the next few years, I see so many people doing design sprints. I see so much, like, first of all, the economy is just not, it's
Not
in
what
the
it was.
shitter. A
Yeah.
lot of people are just cutting back. I'm like, we're probably going to go back to like bare bones for sure and proofs eventually. Like there's going to be a kickback against this like super polished, because it's like, even with social media, it's like it's gone the way of TikTok, like how off the cuff and how like troll goblin mode can you look when you record something. You know, it's like that's what feels relatable. I'm like, when do we hit the full like pendulum swing to going back to just like, here's the logo, black and white color, that's it. What do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It felt interesting.
You bring up a good point with the design sprints. I'm seeing that more and more out there with the subscription services and the sprints, and it's like a very defined amount of time, and it's very clear as to what you're getting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's the
Well, I think-
pendulum thing.
Yeah, that's different. Like the sprints versus the subscription. The subscription weirds me out a bit because it's like unending and you don't know what
Yeah,
you're
true.
necessarily getting. It's like you
To
can
me,
just
it's just a glorified retainer. They just rebranded
Yeah.
retainer. Why
It
is
is a
that such a
retainer.
big deal?
But some of them
Yeah.
are saying like unlimited hours, which I
Yeah,
just don't
that I
that's
understand.
weird. How can
But
you
on
do
a lot
that?
of them, it's just a retainer.
Yeah, they're like, you get 40 hours
yeah,
and then next
But
month
I think that people, retainer is such a loaded word.
Yeah.
It's so scary and it's so,
and people don't want to
Like
pay
you're
up front
stuck.
for
Yes,
6
Your
months.
routine
Yes, like you're stuck.
forever.
subscription
Yeah.
feels like I can cancel at any time. It's like cable. Like I feel like they just demystified it a bit, which honestly, smart. But yeah,
I do like,
I
sprints though. I think sprints,
That's
I think
interesting.
that does make a lot of sense, just truthfully.
Mhm.
And I know it's like controversial a little bit, but like the amount of times that we have worked on projects that have extended forever because there's no predefined stopping point. Like there is in the contract or in the statement of work or the MSA that we send out or something. There's like, we're supposed to stop by this date, but I'm not going to enforce that. Who's going to stop me from saying, okay, like changes? I'm always going to say, okay, sure, let's keep going.
Yeah.
You're not happy yet. Let's just keep trucking until we get there. So it's, I like the idea of a sprint, just truthfully. I think it's like kind of
when
interesting.
someone writes, if someone writes in, they're like, we need this fast. I'm like, glory, hallelujah, because that means they have to make a decision. Like there's no hemming and hawing.
Yes.
There's no like, okay, let's trade out the scope so we can do more rounds of, exploration or whatever. I feel like it just helps people to make clear, quick decisions with their gut instead of like worrying too much and like getting in their own head, which is so easy to do. It really is. Like,
It was so interesting. So we did the brand new Under Consideration podcast interview with, and our two contacts from ILM were the client side of, because they have people who did the design and the client side
nice.
on the podcast. It's really interesting.
cool.
But it was so interesting because they were honestly one of the best clients we've ever had as far as being so respectful, so encouraging, so lovely to work with.
And like really elevating with like their feedback just made it better.
Yeah.
Like it was one of those
But they
dream
seemed
scenarios.
so like confident and like, assured. But then it was hilarious because when we did the podcast interview and Bryony was like saying like, were you guys really sold at the first one? Did you feel like, oh, this is the obvious answer? They were like, well, no, not at all. And we were actually really worried. We didn't know that this would be right. And I just had to give them credit because this is what they do with their clients every day. They knew that they were also kind of panicking in the way that their own clients often do, which is like, and so they were like, we just had
nature.
it is human nature. They're like, we just had to trust the process and know that at the end we would get something that was better than, what we had before. And that was the goal. And I was thought, oh my gosh, that's so funny to hear the other side of it, and to know that internally. But they had this great thing, which this is not proprietary or anything they shared with us, but they have this term called CBB, could be better. And whenever their client gets really hung up on something,
Like
and
a
it's
frame or
and it's
like a
like-
sequence,
yeah, and it's like inhibiting progress, they'll say, let's just mark this CBB and we'll come back to it later. So they just set it aside and move forward.
Smart.
They can do that because it's not really, every single shot is not relying. You couldn't do that with a logo and just say, well, we'll just move ahead with the brand identity and we'll just come back to the logo later. Like that probably wouldn't work. But I think it's interesting because it takes the focus away long enough for them to get perspective and confidence and trust.
Yeah.
And then they come back to it when people are like really happy and they're like, oh, actually, it's fine. Let's just keep going. You know? And so sometimes you just need like space from it. You know?
And you just need to like kind of get used to it. And that's totally what happened with ILM. We kind of like made a decision, and we loved it, of course, but I think they were kind of like, yeah, this like hits all the notes that we want. And we kept telling them like, trust us, like the minute you start getting this on March, the minute you start doing this, like really start getting used to it and living with it, you're gonna love it. And sure enough, like they did. It really is something you have to kind of like get used to, you know, especially if it's new, it's gonna be uncomfortable.
Yeah. But I applaud them for like moving ahead and not like just kept hemming hawing, like you were saying, drawing it out because of like fear. They were like, they just moved ahead. They had a deadline. They're like, all right, this one's the best one out of the options. Let's go, you know?
Yeah.
So
what would you say if there was an opposite, and obviously you don't have to name names, but an opposite client experience that you've had where, you know, the opposite of a dream client, what was that experience like? Because you're comfortable sharing.
yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, the one
We
from
had-
last year. Where we redesigned the logos for 4
Oh my
companies
gosh.
and an umbrella company.
Yeah. It was tough because it was like, you know, we knew some of the people too. And it's like, it's not like it was like bad people. It's like we all got along really well, but it was just like we were rebranding an umbrella of companies all at the same time. We had just done ILM really successfully. But it was like, there was like 12 people in every meeting and no one had no one had like clear.
They hadn't between
decisive-
themselves even worked out what they you know,
Yeah.
which I know is sometimes our job to do, but they had not, like they were very specific. You know, we don't have time for discovery. We don't want the whole thing.
Yeah.
We just want you to redo the logos. And we normally wouldn't do that because it always devolves.
Yeah.
But because they were a friend and we knew them pretty well.
And it was like things that we really liked, and like you know, it was something that we were really excited about.
And
It
we
was
knew
kind
the
of a
companies
bummer.
well, yeah,
That was
so.
the only reason we didn't do discoveries, because we were really familiar with the companies, you know. But whenever if I can't get them to tell me like who the final say is, it's like if everything is split down the middle 50-50, who
between
gets
12 people.
between 12 people, who is the one at the end of the day that's going to have creative control to say this is how we're moving forward? Everyone's feedback was great, but at the end of the day, I think this is what's best for the company, and we just need to make progress, you know, because there's so many potential right answers. At the end of the day, you just have to start picking a direction and kind of leaning
investing
into
in it, yeah.
So, but it's really hard when there's too many people involved, honestly, which is funny because ILM, we literally interviewed over 100 people personally. Like it was insane discovery. But I've never seen a company more aligned on who they were
and more respectful of the kind of authoritative structure, as far as like, well, I put my thoughts in, I was considered, they respectfully like considered my thoughts, but at the end of the day,
like
that's his role.
Rob, the creative director or chief, you know, creative officer, knows what to do, and we trust him fully, kind of thing. You know, it's like you really need that. You need like that team trust on their end of like, this person will know what to do, and we trust them to kind of like, you know.
Because I think at the end of the day, all the jobs that have fallen apart, it's usually been there's too much democracy on the client side, you know. And it's like they actually need like the visionary leader who's like, all right, we've heard it, we've considered it, but
or alternatively, the visionary leader actually doesn't have very much of a vision, is just very wishy-washy, and they won't let anyone else like kind of pick something and move forward. Like the over-involved CEO, you know.
oh yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's usually. Yeah, I think that is something a lot of people don't talk about, is that middle part of when decisions are not getting made and the project is working towards a final decision, but nothing is manifesting properly on the client side. And I think it's when you're not hired to do the strategy, you feel uncomfortable with asserting the thoughts, you know.
You're like, they didn't
Is
ask for this, and they seem like pretty resistant to like that sort of discussion, you know.
Yeah, I think a lot of
it's interesting.
designers, like a lot of studios that don't position themselves as brand strategists or, you know, at all. I mean, this is my experience because I never say that I'm a brand strategist, but I am, just by nature of having worked in this industry for so long. But yeah, giving that opinion and saying, this is why you should pick version 2 instead of version 3 and 1 because X, Y, Z.
And the biggest
you want
bummer
to
is
let
when
them
you-
make that decision.
Yeah,
for
and you
themselves,
do want to
but-
assert that input because you want them to have the best outcome. And I remember we kept just thinking like there are going to be so many eyes on this when this launches, and we really want to set them up with like a good rollout, not have everyone be like, this sucks. And I was like, I could just see it coming kind of thing. And it is weird when like you try to assert yourself and take that moment, and then they just kind of roll over it and they're like, no, it's just not there yet. And you're like, okay, so that's really a bummer, because now I'm kind of not invested, and now I'm just kind of like trying to please you, which you don't know what you want, you know? So it's like very difficult. And that project, the whole thing, we kind of thought we got into a place where everyone liked it, and we got logos approved for all the different umbrella companies. And then nothing ever launched. It was just one of those things where it just died on the vine. And they never said anything, which to me, because it's like, you know, people, you just think, are we really, like my feelings aren't that sensitive. You could just say, hey, just so you know, thanks for the work. But unfortunately, we just went in another direction. But just tell me. Then again, it's like, I'm not owed anything.
That's true.
But to me, I'm just like, how awkward. Now we just like, you know, like, but whatever. But I think like a lot of people are experiencing that right now. I feel like it's just weird times. Like we've worked on so many projects over the last 2 years where because of the state of the economy, like things just, it's like they don't have the budget for rollout. Everything's delayed. You know, it's just like so many projects that are done that I'm like, will this ever see the light of day? Is it ever going to launch? You know, it's just like, it's just weird economic times. I feel like a lot of people are feeling it. And it's like, well, we got paid. Yeah. And I'm like,
we've had so many.
It feels awful as a creative to say I got paid. It's like, I want people to see it. I'm proud of this, and it'll never see the light of day. Like it kills me.
Sometimes they don't want to pay though. Also, it's not that, you know, like when the economy started going down a lot, and like lots of layoffs started happening, we found that a lot of clients were pausing projects and not intending on resuming them, but telling us that they were going to resume them
so
later.
Awkward, where you're like, and okay, then, I want this final invoice. Like we need to.
But, you know, and you've gotten like 3/4 of the way through the project, and you're like, I don't want to bill them if they're going to come back in like 4 months, but I also would love to be able to pay the mortgage, you know?
You definitely, so I never feel, I'm always just right. And I just say like, hey, since it seems like we're not sure when we'll pick this back up, like we're just gonna, you know, invoice you for where, you know, the work done up to this point, you know, and like, let us know when you're ready. We just want to make sure that there's like a pin in this, and you have to do it sooner rather than later. Cause once it's 3 months out, they feel like they can ignore you.
Yeah. It's like your personal connection.
The personal connection has died.
Yeah. I think that's, I feel like you both have like a really good system in place. And I mean, you do teach a course, which we would love to hear more about that, just in general. But systems in place for building a business and having it thrive instead of, you know, just withering like a lot of creative businesses do.
It's hard. Yeah.
And I mean, I think when we were young, we were so unsure. And so we were just so, I mean, thank God we have a really wonderful set of people in our lives who are just so helpful and like willing to give us, you know, transparent information. And we also have like just a business mentor who has nothing to do with design, who's just like incredibly business savvy. And it's like, he'll always give us advice. And I'm just like, say what? Do what? Like, are you sure? And it's always panned out. It's just like, you really do have to exert confidence, even when you don't feel it sometimes, to just make sure that there's that healthy respect of like, yeah, you know, you are going to pay me because this is how business works, you know? And it's like, you know, I don't know. I feel like it's weird how small businesses are the ones who always get shafted instead of like the bigger, you know, it's like we're the ones who are like directly affected if this doesn't get paid, you know?
Well, like this big company that we were working with the other day, they were like, our standard, you know, payment terms are net 60. Is that okay? Well, she said, is that okay? I grabbed a hold of that one. And I was like, well, actually we're a small business. And it's like, you know, like, that kind of long turnaround on getting paid just is not as easy for a small firm like us. Like, is there any way we can work on it? Can we do net 30? And she was like, how about net 45? I was like, better than net 60. Like, right? Like, but like, damn, that should be illegal. I hate net 60. To me, it's just such fucking bullshit. But anyways, but
how can they not just put it through?
I know. Just send it. So 30 days is enough. Put it through. Yeah. But these big, you know, behemoths, when you want to work with them, you do kind of like, you have to be a lot more flexible as a small studio because they'll use someone else and they don't care. Like, and if you want it, you kind of have to like juggle, like, okay, do I have enough coming in to where if this falls through, like I won't be totally screwed, but at the same time, like it could be a really great project, right? And some of the stuff, it's just been their contracts have been so evil and like vile that we were just like, I'm sorry, we just can't sign this. Like,
The contracts are just so predatory. I'm like,
so predatory.
and I'm like, people are signing this? Like,
Yeah.
it's all on me. you know?
So
It's
some of
just-
them we just couldn't. We were just like, there's just too much risk here. And then some of them were like, well, this will be fine. We have this kind of insurance, like, and I don't foresee any of the kind of work we're doing would be, put us
fall in
in
this category.
fall in the category. But so we just sign it, and we think we'll get a good paycheck, we'll get a good, client on the logo roster, and hopefully we don't. But gosh, it's a scary
But
world
we've
out
definitely
there.
had to step away from projects where the legal team just like we kept asking them to change things and they would come back with even more, like they would add other things in, and I'm like, no, you see, now you've added this in. What are you doing? Like, and you didn't tell me. So you just kind of are. Then you're just like, this is like
Shady.
bad foot to get off on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird because it'll be like, and I feel bad because the creative team will always come back and be like, we're so sorry, like we really wanted to work together. Legal just isn't budging. I'm like, 100%. I understand. It's just like we have to be careful. Like this is like an insane clause that I'm about to sign here.
So aside from the contract shadiness, how do you select which types of projects to take on these days?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking for, well, so there's some of them, they're just like, oh, this one will be fun, it'll be easy, it'll be quick. Like you were saying, Liz, like the timeline's short and it's like, they'll pay us. Like it's not the best pay, but it's like, it's fun work. A lot of times the fun work is like the smaller budgets, honestly. And it's people who have like a really exciting
But
vision.
it's like they have a passion. It's like their money. They're doing something cool. It's like very, that kind of thing is exciting.
It is
like,
exciting.
Yeah.
So I think no matter what, we always love doing that kind of work. And people will reach out and be like, oh, are we too small beans? I'm like, no way. Like, like we're a small business too. Like, but so there's a little bit of the small businesses. There's the medium-sized businesses we work with are usually like weirdly more production work that they just want like a cool studio to work on because they feel like they're growing up. And it's like they're starting to hire the people they always wanted to hire as a small studio but couldn't afford, or a small business. And so they'll hire us, but then we'll end up doing just like kind of like production stuff. It's like not that exciting.
Oh my gosh, same.
Always, but
Same.
Yeah.
This is
like,
my same like roster of things. This is so funny.
Yeah.
But it is nice.
Keep
It's
going.
nice having this steady work, and it's nice. It's like they just want it to be a little more elevated than what they have the time to tackle.
Yes.
It's like they don't have the time to make it look cool, but they want it to be a little bit more exciting than generic corporate.
Yeah.
And I'm like, perfect. Like,
Well,
we
like
can
they
do
say,
that.
you can't eat caviar every day. Well, you can't make caviar. I mean, I don't know, you can't make caviar like 100% of the time, whatever it is. Like you don't write hits every day, like constantly. You have to have some time of just doing like kind of normal plug and chug work to like refresh yourself.
Right, like what's
Yeah.
the Beatles must have had a dud album. I don't know what it was, but it's like everyone, you can't do, help and I don't know,
But-
rubber soul every day.
Yeah.
don't
So
know.
we have those medium-sized clients, and then I think we'll have one or two, like maybe one like banner project a year. And because we're a small studio, that might be all we have the time for. And when it comes around, it's like sometimes we really have to try and like juggle things to make room for it. But usually those kinds of things are good because there's plenty of time to quote it. They're fielding a lot of people. Then the onboarding, it's like you really have about 3 months to get prepped for a good big project because it's just a slow moving machine. So we do try and get at least one of those. But yeah, I mean, it's a good smattering. And when it comes in, I'm usually just looking for red flags. Like, do they want to do something that they just pretty much want a copy of something we've already done? Which with the pediatric dentistry, Happy Tooth, I could tell you, we could make a fortune just doing pediatric dentistry because everyone's coming in wanting to do the Happy Tooth.
Wow.
I'm like, we already did the Happy
Hey.
Tooth,
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so we try not to copy. We try not to do duplicates. We try and like keep it fresh.
Same with Nettie. We did like a pickleball company, and like we had pickleball companies out our ears coming to,
Yes.
That
It's
is
just
trendy
funny.
right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think it is funny. It's like, it's a balance of like who seems like a good personality fit. And a lot of times we'll get RFPs where it's just like, we're like, that's just not like a good fit, even though it's like a huge project and would be really cool. Like it's probably just doesn't kind of like sound up our alley. And so sometimes it's hard because it's like, that sounds cool, but it's just like, we wouldn't want to let the client down. And, it just probably isn't the right one for us, So knowing that's important too, I think, especially
Yeah.
as a small studio, you only have so much time. So it's like,
For sure.
that could be 6 months to a year of your life,
Mm-hmm.
Do you check for chemistry, the collaboration chemistry as well? And have you ever turned down
Yes.
a potential client because your gut was like, this is going to be bad. This is going to be a bad collaboration. We can sense it.
Definitely. it is weird. It's like you'll get the email and it sounds too good to be true. I'm actually really wary of things that sound too good to be true. I'm like, no, it's too perfect. Like something must be wrong. And it's like sometimes you need to like just be like, no, good things can happen. Good things can happen.
But I was, when we were rewriting the book, I was just rewriting the section about the pre-pricing conversation.
Right.
Like where you get on the call and it literally only takes, you could, 10 minutes is all it takes, but it's like it could save you from being catfished because it's like what is written in an email or in a brief is so different. It can be so different from just getting on a call, going through it with them and realizing, you know, reading between the lines, kind of getting a sense for their attitude, because their attitude toward the project and toward you and what they think the value is of what you do can be huge difference makers in how you quote something and whether or not you think something will be enjoyable to work on.
That's so true.
But yeah, I don't know. What are the red flags you all look for? Like when you do those intro calls and things like that, are there certain things that always jump out to you?
For me, I've mostly been full-time in-house creative. So I guess the comparison is interviewing at companies and gut checking for chemistry and values, and especially this is, you know, going to be a place I'll be working at hopefully for a long time. And so those types of temperature checks are really important for me. And also how much they value creative. I feel like I've worked at some companies where especially tech companies, it's my kind of where I've been working for like the past few decades, but there have been some tech companies that look at creative teams like production wings. And so I do a quick gut check. I'm like, oh, do you value creative thinking and creative innovation and creative strategy, or are you just looking for production designers, you know? Slog of work. And so those are things I look for, but chemistry and personalities and respect for the work and for the people are super important for me, at least.
Yeah. That is funny. It's like, you know, when you get on the call and they're like, you know, you're like, why do you want to do the, you know, rebrand or the redesign, or why do you need this project? And they're like, you know, we just had it for 10 years and I guess it's just time for something new. And you're just like, so really no reason at all. You know, you're just like, I'm always trying to talk people out of it. I'm like, this is a great logo.
I find myself talking people out of it all the time too.
I'm like, keep it, man. Just keep investing. It'll gather steam. Yes. And it's like, if they don't know and they're just kind of like, I don't know, people say you should do it like this often. I'm like, no. Like, no. Like, you know, I don't know. I feel like half the time we're just trying to give someone the confidence to keep going. It's just like, you know.
What would you say are the reasons companies should invest in a rebrand or a redesign?
It is interesting because it's like, when we were speaking with ILM, we did one of those kind of like chemistry tests where it's like everyone meets and it's like, you know, the chief creative officer and like some of the other stakeholders and then me and Jen, and just kind of talking shop and like not sharing like a full strategy for what we plan to do, but just kind of like briefly discussing, you know, who they are and like what they're doing. And I remember like at the very beginning, I was like, you can't throw away like the bulb and the cog, which is like their two key icon, you know, elements to their logo that has been since this 1975, since their inception. It's like, you have to keep those elements, in my opinion, because I'm like very much of like, I like to maintain the heritage if there's something to draw from, you know, if like,
and with them, I feel like everything is nostalgia. I mean, their heyday,
their audience is so, it's like a Taylor Swift audience. They are so into the lore. They're so into the deep cuts. They're so dedicated. I'm like, you can't throw that out. Like, it will be,
people will riot.
Mutiny. It will be a mutiny.
And they seemed very relieved.
And they were like,
that.
oh yes, I know. They were like, we thought so too, but we were just worried, you know, because, you know, our last, it's just like, has it been played out? Is it too on the nose? It's like, no, you own a bulb and a cog in, you know, visual effects. Like, I don't know. I feel like everybody wants to kind of have like a light bulb moment. And it's like, you actually own that.
So with them, it was easy. The need for the rebrand was clear. It was like, it did look dated in a way that was not like heritage or nostalgia. And it was just very light. It was faint. Yeah. It used Adobe Garamond. It was like a system font that anyone can use.
And as far as like the competition, like, you know, they're often going to like VCES or like these big, like, or even like movie premieres where they have like the logo wall where everybody's kind of, I forgot what those are called.
Step and repeat. Just totally receding.
And it was just like the last thing, which is weird because they're like the storied brand, like the pinnacle industry brand. So it's kind of like, that was like a no-brainer of like, let's keep some of the elements in the story and like, let's just like really polish it for like, I feel like those are the rebrands we love the most, are the ones where it's like, let's keep something from the heritage and let's bring it back in like a new and exciting way that gets people excited. But it's like when the audience has changed, the offering has changed, or like there's just like maybe like a connection problem of like there seems to be an irrelevance to
Mhm.
them.
Mhm.
You know, it's like those are the moments when it seems like, yeah, this seems like a good time for a rebrand. Or if like the story of why they started has like nothing related to like the actual company, you know, it's just like, I don't know, it's just my dog and I love my dog. And it's like, yeah, okay, so yeah, maybe something not that, you know, something, you know. But I find the ones that we are ill-equipped for, the rebrands that we are ill-equipped for, is when they're trying to do a patch job on a poor product or service. It's
Mhm.
like branding cannot help a poor brand like experience. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's something deeper where it's like, hey, you will probably need to work with a strategist that's going to, from the ground level, help you with your services, your products, your experiences, those key touch points. Because if you're just going to gloss over something that inherently with like your a visual clients don't patch. trust, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So for us, it's like the easiest rebrand, which it's, I mean, the easiest ones that we love to do that are the most are, it's like they have a great core product service offering and they're just not reflecting it in how they're presenting themselves. That's like such an easy
Yeah.
win to level up. Such an easy fix. And then it's like low hanging fruit that it's like the success meter is so easy to hit.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's like they're already doing everything right. Those are the companies we love to work with. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because like you said, Liz, I don't feel like we're necessarily like hardcore strategists. Like I subscribe to a newsletter from Paul Worthington. It's like I recommend it to everyone. Every podcast I go on, I try to say, subscribe to Off Kilter. It's so good. It's a marketing newsletter, but he's
And
kind
brand.
of he's more in the brand marketing space. And he's just so smart, no bullshit, Scotsman, hilarious. And you know, does like all the latest trends and like kind of recaps like what's going on in the industry and things like that.
Cool.
But his experience is like drilling down with brands when they come to because he worked at the huge agencies and these big companies will come and say, we need to rebrand. And he says, yes, but it's not just a visual identity. Like his job was to go in and say, this is what's wrong with your experience. We need to redo your locations. We need to redo your product. This is what's poor here. But I feel like when people come to us at Hoodzpah, they're not like looking for that. And I honestly, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like we've been tapped in with other teams. Sometimes, you know, it's like a bigger agency that can kind of like offer that service. And that's always fun, right? Like teaming up with a bigger team. And it's like the Avengers. It's like we just come in, do our parts, you know? It's like
But hopefully more interesting.
Those are my favorite projects too. I love those where
those are
like a
so
larger
fun.
agency will hire us to do this thing that we're really good at. And then we don't have to do all the other stuff, like all the
it's so
hand-holding
nice.
stuff. Like there's an account director for that, and there's a project manager to deal with the timelines. And then we just come in and we're like, hello, here is your beautiful thing that we have made. Goodbye. And then
Yeah, and you just get to work with the art director at the agency
Love
that's
it.
like so sweet and like understands your plight.
They're
and, like,
shielding you from like the
harsh
client,
realities.
yeah, like radiation.
love those. Those
Yeah,
are great.
absolutely.
But yeah, we have like the similar thing where it's like, oh, are we too small for you to want to do that project? Or, you know, and we're like, no, we would love to work with you. Like, we're not a big team. We're just two random people that just gonna do like it's so funny because I think of you as Hoodzpah as this like a big agency. I mean, I know you're not, but it feels like you're
That's good that we're putting that off though. I like that that's the energy we're giving. I do like that.
Yeah.
And then you come in, it's like the Wizard of Oz. It's like, wow.
Yeah, it is.
Like what's
Oh,
behind
that's
this?
what I
Just
always
a
feel like.
two midgets back here. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's me and Amy. It's just me and Jen in a big trench
always
coat,
feel that way.
like an adult, standing on top of each other to try and sneak into a movie.
Yeah.
It's even more impressive, like, and Data Lands when you do realize it's such a small team and you do so much and do it so well. And so,
Mm.
Liz, I viscerally, I know, I love that. And you're so right.
yeah.
Liz, I viscerally remember when you signed up for the course and I was like, I wanted to write you and be like, you don't need this. You're doing
No.
great.
I was
I'm
like-
very aware of you and you're so good. And like, please join the Slack, but you don't need this.
No, I was I feel like it's such a weird place to be. Like when you're in a career for a while. Like I've just been around for a while now. I've just been doing a lot of stuff, dabbling in a lot of different places on the internet. And so when you've done that and you've, you know, had your name out there, I guess, it's almost harder to just be like, hey guys, I need help. Can someone help me just figure out what I'm doing? It feels like
I'm not 20. I'm not 25. You know, I'm an adult woman. I should be able to do this by myself, but I can't. And I'm like, learned to admit that at a certain point and be like, I'm going to sign up for all these amazing courses. Yours was the
Yes.
first one that I signed up for. I did. I
Honored.
even took like Jess Hish's Dark Arts of Pricing. You know, she gave it to me for free. I was like, no, I need to
Love
take
it.
the class.
Yeah.
You know, and I took John Contino's class on lettering just because I wanted to know what he
he's
does
great.
every day. He lives 10 minutes from me. It's like I couldn't admit that I needed help, but I still sought out the help from
Well, there you go.
I think that's great.
important
though.
people.
I think, yeah.
Yeah,
But I feel
there's
like
like
that's something I'm learning too. It's like you kind of in your 20s, you have that like blind ego that you sort of need to get started. Like you need that
Absolutely.
that gutsiness to go into
the chip
apply-
on your shoulder.
Yeah, to apply for the jobs that you're not
Mhm.
yet, qualified for, but you will be. Nobody's qualified. It's just, but you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, I think you do have to have that blind naivete when you're younger. But it's like once you get to your 30s, you're like, I don't really know as much as I thought I did. And that's a good thing that I know that, because now I can, like you said, seeking out like people who know more than you and just trying to like enrich yourself and just continue the learning process. I feel like those are the people who really thrive and kind of thrive in their careers and continue on. They're not just staying stagnant and saying like, I know it all. I like no
But
one
I
can tell
wouldn't
me
even
anything.
say that know more than you. I've learned so much from peers who,
Yeah.
it's like we're technically,
Right.
similar
It's
career.
like, that's what I would call all of us. We're all peers, but just a forum for everyone to be transparent is, I think, the key thing. And I don't know about you all, but when you take courses or when you do these things, or even just like when you did improv, the most valuable thing I think is the community aspect
Yeah.
and just having people to talk to. Like, it's not even like what people say so much. It's just getting used to just like, I don't know, just having people around that you can just spitball and like bounce things off of. transparency, like Liz
Yeah.
said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, I signed up for like LinkedIn Learning at the same time. I just started exploring the areas that I just didn't feel comfortable in, and all of, I mean, there's just so much you can learn. And I came up with like a list of so many things I just did not know. I did not know it because I never heard of it before. Like statement of work. I didn't know. I was just making like a list of things I had to do, or I would just send off an invoice. I would send, an estimate. I didn't know you had to send an MSA to a new client. I didn't know that there was a thing called a work back. These like small things that you learn when you work in an agency or in-house. You just don't even know they exist until
Right.
one day you
Yeah.
hear the term. So you don't know what you don't know.
And you Google
basically.
it.
Yes. Yeah. Frantically Googling while you're in the meetings.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I'm still doing that with like marketing.
100%.
I'm like, COB, cool. That's what that means. I think there's something so powerful in a person who has grit and like combined with a continual pursuit of learning. And if folks can just keep that combination really tight, like they can be unstoppable in my opinion.
Oh
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Again, to bring it back to Stephen King, which I've never read any of his fiction, but now I really loved his process book, so I'm going to go read his fiction. It makes no sense. But he said, create with the door closed and edit with the door open. I thought that was a great way to, it's like, there's a time when you have to be gritty and selfish, and that's when you're creating and you just have to make it. You have to make the thing and just make it exactly how you think it should be. And then there's a time then after that where you need to learn to open the door, and that's when you have to start to accept feedback, because honestly, people will have a better perception with new perspective and things like that. Well, not all the time, but a lot of times they will. And especially if you're getting multiple feedbacks and it's the same feedback, like, okay, shoot, like
We've got a problem here.
we've got a problem here and I need to fix this. But it's like it has to be a two-way street. Otherwise, it just becomes like a cesspool, of just your own,
You start to drink your own Kool-Aid. There's nothing worse.
You start to drink your own bathwater. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a better saying for it, because that is what it's like. Nobody likes that person either. Like, there's nothing that's more of a turnoff than someone who thinks they know everything when they absolutely don't. It's like whether it's from a client's perspective or a collaborator or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that is the quickest way to like lose friends and de-influence people.
Completely agree.
That's a new book you should write.
I know, that's our next
of business.
I want this to be held copyright. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Totally.
No, that's cool.
Well, I
Jess,
knew,
so
yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you just took on a new position, but weren't you doing like testing out freelancing or working for yourself for a bit before that? Just
For a
briefly?
bit. Yeah, I was dabbling
Yeah.
in freelance. I learned a lot about what I want and don't want. I think
Yeah.
ultimately, because I've been working in-house for so long, I learned in the very brief stint I was freelancing, I learned that I really love being in-house, and I love
Yeah.
being in-house at one company for a long time, working with the same people towards the same goal, and I love leading teams in-house. And so there was a lot I was already starting to miss from that world. And I have so much respect for freelancers and folks who have their own agencies. And I learned a lot, even in a very short amount of time of doing my own freelance projects and stuff. But ultimately learned quickly that, it's not for me at this moment in time, at least. Maybe it will be in the future again. But
yeah,
right
that's
now.
kind of the fun thing about like testing those things or like taking courses. Like Jen tried to learn like Cinema 4D and like 3D and Blender. And she was like, I love it. Not for me. Not for me in the long term. Like I'd rather just hire someone to do it. But now I know the lingo, and it's like you always take something away that's you're like, okay, now I can apply that to my next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I learned 3D. I mean, I learned like the most rudimentary amount of each thing that I dabble in. So that, and I'm always hopeful that I'll discover a brilliance that I didn't know I had,
Right,
but
your secret,
it's not, typically it's not what happens. So, but what I come out with is I know how to speak about it, and I know how to talk to freelancers when we need a thing now. Like now, if we need 3D elements, I'm not afraid to say, yeah, sure, client, we can totally like plug a 3D element into that web page that we're making or that marketing landing page, because I know how to onboard a new 3D person onto the project, get what I need, and then have them understand my feedback as an art director, creative director. And same with like type. I went to Cooper Type. Do I design typefaces? No, I don't. Do any?
No, I don't.
But I know all the terminology. I think no time is truly wasted when you're learning. I think things are always applicable to something in the future. Just just keep constantly learning, and it's good. Your brain will thank you.
I felt that way years ago. I took this 12-week General Assembly code, like front end coding boot camp.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, and I learned how to do HTML, CSS, some JavaScript, to the point where I could like create a website from scratch, like not the most complex website, but I could get something up and live. And then afterwards, I was like, I love design. I'm gonna stick with design.
Thank you.
Such a rich, like a deeper understanding of designing for the web and collaborating with developers. I knew how to speak their language more after doing it. So,
that's invaluable.
Yeah.
Oh man, the other day, I'll tell you what, having the vocabulary of something is so handy and refreshing. But the other day, and I think I'm pretty like, I try and be so specific about my words when I'm giving feedback, because I know getting feedback is so annoying. So I try and be clear, positive. But anyways, I wrote back this developer for someone's project, and I was like, can we make this feel more dynamic? Like have this dynamically populate this thing, from over here. So like, if there's some sort of a database you can make so that it automatically does that. Or I said dynamically does that. And then when he wrote back, he was like, okay, we've dynamically brought in. I was like, okay, buddy, like calm down. Like that's not that weird of a word to use for that. And I'm sorry, I didn't know whatever technical term, but I just thought it was so hilarious. He literally put it in quotes.
That's weird.
And with like little cedillas next to it. I was like,
so like,
he was trying to use your own word.
2004, like the cedilla with the asterisk.
Yep.
That's
so funny.
Terrible.
Oh my gosh.
That's rude.
You're just trying to speak to you in the language that you understand. That's all.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't like that.
I don't either. I don't like, okay.
Anyway.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny.
Well, that's nice that you're you tried to speak in the language and were rejected slightly, but that's
Those kind of humbling
So
moments.
now
When I work with Ethan Silva, he's this amazingly talented motion and animation designer. And it's so funny every time I send feedback, now I do it with a loom because sometimes, especially with motion, I'm always like, and then it needs to go, and then I have to act it out. I'm like, it needs to be like elastic like this. Because, you're like trying to explain the easing motions, and it's like, it's so ridiculous. Yeah. It's like that Dennis Rodman meme everyone was using for a while where he's talking about defense. He's like, I go, it's like, it just feels like I always imagine that. I'm like, it's so funny.
That could be a good tactic for developers too, if you're like doing animation on the website,
yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So we are a bit over. We want to respect your time. Also, we know that there was some technical difficulties in the beginning.
Yes, our bad on.
Jess, was there anything else that you wanted to 1000% cover? I feel like our conversation thus far has been amazing and went off track from our questions.
Yeah.
But that is good. That's excellent.
Sure.
That's what we want.
I feel like I could speak with you both all day. It's such a natural fit.
I know, you guys are so fun. It's so easy. Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe one more question before we wrap, because I'm super curious about this one. But if you could give your 18-year-old selves advice, what would it be?
I think I had a chip on my shoulder way too long, even though we were kind of laughing because we think that we're very Southern in this way because we kind of spent our formative years in Kentucky for a lot of time, even though we lived in upstate Syracuse, New York for a while too. And but I feel like we're very Southern in the way that we're it's like we kind of don't like doing things the official way because we're like that we'll never get into that or we'll get rejected from that. We'll just kind of do our own thing and kind of figure it out. And if it works out, cool. And if not, no one has to ever know about it. And I think that we had a chip on our shoulder for a little too long of feeling like outsiders from the official club of the design scene, I think it's you kind of feel like there's this design scene that you have to tap into or there's these people you have to know. And I guess to a certain extent that is true. It would be good to have those connections and learn from those people, of course. But it's I think everyone kind of makes their own scene. It's when you look at these music scenes that pop up with whether it's hardcore or whatever, emo or
Pearl Jam and
the
guy from
and it's they weren't trying to get into something that already existed. They made their own thing, and that's why it was cool. That's why it was interesting. So I think for the longest time, it's are we doing this right? Or and we were still doing our own thing. I think that's just our natural way. But then when we wanted to kind of get bigger clients, we wanted to kind of grow the studio and not just work with friends or small businesses, I think we let it kind of get in our head for too long. So I think I would just tell myself no one really knows exactly what to do. Everyone to a certain degree, the process isn't that different. Business is business to a certain extent. And it's no one's process is that different. Just do good work, try to do good by people. And it's you're probably more qualified than you think, I think is what I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would say something similar. There are no secrets, really. I think that's what I keep learning more and more. I keep, you talk to, you were saying John Contino. We met him at a
MLC
conference.
Connect, the sports design conference.
And when we first started doing logos, we were obsessed with. I mean, I still am obsessed with John Contino. He's so amazing, and I just love the.
He's so good, and he's so funny. He's so himself.
Funny, and the liveliness of what he does. I just think no one does. They don't know that life that he captures. It's just so cool. But anyways, and then I finally met him and I just kept waiting to kind of hear and you slowly kind of ask them questions and think they're going to reveal it. They're going to reveal it. They're going to reveal it. And I just keep realizing there is no secret. I think the thing that I find the commonality is a consistent work ethic and literally just they show up from 9 to 5 or whatever their hours are from 5 to 2 in the morning, whatever your hours are, it doesn't matter. But as long as you're consistently putting the time and the work in, you'll eventually find it out unless you're really just stubborn and not being aware. I think, so there's no secrets and just put the hours in.
Yeah. That is so interesting. That is what it is. There are no, I've not found one person. I've met all of my idols at this point, and I've not heard one thing that I had not, maybe known already. But it's just
Yeah,
like
right.
it doesn't hit you until it's the right time for that advice to hit you. You know, there aren't any secret, you know, like potions
Cheat
or
sheets.
anything. Like,
Yeah.
there are no cheat sheets. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't know
if
it
any-
until
Yeah.
it happens. Basically, it's just
And if anything, I
you
feel
have
like
experience.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, if anything, like it feels like if you get that like quick shot to success, it's actually a curse, because then like you're the trend that everyone's like, yeah, we saw it, we're over it. Like, what's next? That to me would have been the biggest curse, I think, because then you're constantly trying to be the hot new thing instead of just being like the good thing that's like, wow, they're still putting out good work, like consistently, just like, you know, doing the good thing. Like John Contino has never tried to like chase a trend. Like he's always going to do John Contino, you know, and it's like, he obviously evolves and grows. It's not like he's doing the same thing he's been doing for the last 10 years. Like his practice evolves and grows, but it always feels like John Contino. Wow, this turned into a real love fest for
Sponsored
John Contino.
by John Contino.
Joe, we love you.
Thanks, John. I'll make sure to John Contino.
Yeah,
Hey.
in memory of, or I don't know, whatever.
No, in memoriam. Never. No, I'll be sure. Make sure that we put it like with special guest.
We'll have a tip on the bottom that says like
Guest star. But yeah, I think that's like an amazing insight, and I think as I've been on a journey of self-reflection lately, a lot of those things have been hitting me, and I wish I had known them at 18 or 20 when I decided to pursue design.
But then what would we chase?
It would have been nice.
Liz? What would we have chased if we had known that there was no secret?
You have to have a hunger.
Knowing.
You have to have an insecurity that you need
You
to
do. You honestly do. It's like,
Yeah.
I really think
It kind
you
of drives
do.
you forward a bit.
Yeah, it's like if you're content and happy. No,
I guess,
that's
yeah.
not true.
That's not true. I
But
feel like
it's
there's a balance.
There is a balance. There is a balance, but I think insecurity is helpful at the beginning to sometimes.
I do
When
wish
channeled.
I had a little bit more self-confidence in the beginning, and not just watching my peers and my friends become more and more like famous and so cool. I also surrounded myself with very cool people, which is wonderful, but also debilitating at the same time.
Interesting.
So, yeah, when you're like young and too unsure of yourself, and you don't know how to pursue the thing that you're really want to be good at, and then you're watching everyone else get so cool and famous or whatever. It's weird. It's a weird thing. But yeah, you make your own networks and you make your own environments. I didn't know my friends were going to be cool at the end of the day.
You just got lucky.
No.
You tapped into the right group.
But you can make those, like, anyone that's like very excited about the same stuff that you're excited about. I think that's what it is you surround yourself by people with the same amount of energy as you. And if they have more energy than you, then maybe you won't be, I
think that's good though. Yeah, it's like find your people that you relate to. Don't go chasing like the celebrity design friends. Like find your people, and like you guys are the next wave. You're the next group. You're the next wave that's going to do the new thing.
Next wave. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to be in the established wave. Make your own wave. That's
Make
what
your own
it
wave.
is. It's
your own wave. I love that.
Oh,
another
just
wave
make
will
some
always
podcast
come
merch?
by.
Yes,
We need
We should do that.
Yeah, we need the merch.
Yeah.
Another wave will always come, right? Like it's not going to just stop.
Wait for the next set. I don't know. Is that no? That seems bad. Don't wait for the next set. Chase,
No,
snake the wave.
keep going.
Snake the
But
waves.
you'll catch the next one. It's fine. If you miss that one, totally fine too.
That's
Just
true. That's true.
keep moving.
There's a
Anyway.
TikTok where Minnie Driver calls out Tiesto.
Diplo.
Oh, it was Diplo for stealing her wave in Malibu. She goes, "There's an order to surfing. There's an etiquette." And I guess he just like paddled out and just like took the next wave, and it's like all these people are waiting. She was next in line. Just that reminded me of it, but I was just like cracking up. So hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
She named names.
She did name names. I always love when people like, I'm like, just went down. But anyway,
No, that's
thank you. All this was so fun. Seriously.
Yes. Thank you again. This was awesome. Gotta get to talk to you all day.
I'm so happy. Well, I'm not excited. I mean, I'm excited still, but I'm so happy we got to speak.
I know, me
Yeah.
too.
Feel like-
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can all meet up in person one day.